Our parents are supposed to be there for us, to safeguard us, to protect us, to love us, to be there in the good times and in the bad. But what if they're not? What if it seems that they're almost against us? What happens when they aren't there for us? On today's video, I'm going to reveal the signs that your mother or your father or both of your parents may be narcissists. Welcome back, friends. Ashley Berges here. Glad you tuned in. And today I'm going to be illuminating the signs of your parents being narcissists. Okay, so the thing is, our parents are supposed to be nurturing, caring, there for us. They're supposed to be there in the good times and the bad. They're supposed to be our cheerleaders. They're like our end-all, be-all to life's existence, right? And they're supposed to be there for us. But you know, sometimes our parents aren't there for us. And some people's parents aren't there for them really at all. And oftentimes we don't realize, because when we're growing up, it's not like we had 3 different sets of parents to decide which ones were healthy and which ones weren't healthy, right? We didn't really think about that. It was just whatever we were given was considered normal. And so today I'm going to outline these signs for you, 14 different signs that directly indicate that your parents or parent is a narcissist. The first sign is guilt. Okay, many of us have been riding the guilt train for the beginning of time. Okay, it seems that our whole life is based on guilt. And when our parents are narcissists, there's a tendency for them to put us on what? A guilt trip. A guilt trip for almost absolutely anything. Whether it's what you do or what you don't do. The school that you get into or the school you don't get into. The grades you get or the grades you don't get. The sports you play or the sports you refuse to play. All these will be guilting you, okay? Because that's part of the narcissistic parent, is to make you feel guilty, bad about the things that you've done or bad about the things you haven't done. And it's almost like you feel like you're walking on eggshells and you feel guilty about a lot of things in your life. And it's interesting how that guilt will actually penetrate through your adulthood. The second sign that your parents or one parent is a narcissist is that they do not respect your boundaries. Boundaries? What boundaries? You have boundaries? There is no boundaries with a narcissistic parent. You have no rules or regulations. If I want to come into your room at any time, I can. If I want to go through your stuff, I can. Okay, I get to hear often from many of my clients that when they were younger and living with their parents, they would catch their mother in their room when they were at school and they came back early to find the mother reading their private journal. Okay, there is no boundaries. And these boundaries and the disrespect of boundaries continues through your adulthood. Okay, and so it's really hard to create healthy boundaries between you and your narcissistic parent. The third sign that your parents or one of your parents is a narcissist is that if you have a brother and sister, one of you is the favorite and the other one is not. One of you is the golden child, can do no wrong. Put on a pedestal, anything that you want is given to you, while the other child suffers, is usually given the scraps of not only items and actual possessions, but also the love and emotions from their parents. It seems like the golden child gets everything, while the other child, well, you know, they might as well just stand in line. The next indication that your mom or dad or both parents may be narcissists is that they don't listen or really care about your feelings whatsoever. Okay? Because the reason they don't care about your feelings is that they just don't care. A narcissist isn't going to think about you. They're going to think about their own feelings and their own thoughts about the situation. You come second. If your feelings and thoughts, though, align with them and support them, then you're pretty okay. But otherwise, they don't hear you. The fifth sign that your parents or parent may be a narcissist is that criticism is not allowed. Okay, they can criticize you all they want, but when it comes to you criticizing them, that's a no-go. Okay, if you've ever tried to criticize a narcissistic parent, you know that that doesn't go well. Okay, if you've ever tried to criticize a narcissistic friend, you know that the argument will escalate and there might be some screaming involved. Okay, because the acceptance of criticism is not accepted by a narcissist, and they will quickly turn it on to you. And the sixth indication is there is no empathy. In order to have empathy, you have to feel and care about the other person even more than you care about yourself. Okay? And in the world of a narcissist, because they are the center of the universe, they don't feel that way. Okay? They will think about their own feelings, their own thoughts, the way that they're projecting themselves to the world, and then your thoughts and how they feel about you and how they care about your thoughts and feelings is somewhere over here, and it's definitely not in their main point of view. Number 7, the use of gaslighting. Oh, this is a big deal with narcissists. This is widely used. It's like in the handbook of a narcissist, you know, how to screw with somebody. Use gaslighting. If you don't know exactly what gaslighting is, check out my video on gaslighting on this channel and it'll describe it to a T. Number 8, control. A narcissist likes to control, especially a parent. So think about it. The narcissist parent wants to control you. Now, why do they want to control you? Because they can't control themselves. Okay? And they can't control the rest of the world around them. You're their child. And because you don't know any better, you allow it, they allow it, but they're controlling you, what you do, how you act, what time you come home, what time you leave. It's all a set of control. Okay? And that's why a lot of people who leave family that are narcissists, like the mother or father is narcissist, and they go to college, that's why a lot of girls and a lot of guys rebel, okay? They go crazy. It's like all that pin-up aggression and pin-up energy. They go drinking, they go crazy, and that's why the first few years of college is usually crazy for kids that came from narcissistic parents. Number 9, mi casa, su casa. Well, okay, I'm not really talking about my house, your house, but what I am saying is that my accomplishments are your accomplishments. Or your, wait, that's not right. Your accomplishments are my accomplishments. A narcissistic parent will see your accomplishments as a child as theirs. Do you see what I'm saying? Me accomplishments, su accomplishments. Okay, so it's all about them. If you get a trophy in high school or you win some sort of contest, they're happy for you, okay? But they're more happy about the fact of how you make them look good. And to some degree, they see that accomplishment as their own. Number 10, a narcissistic parent can be what? Rigid. Very, very rigid. When you're living with a narcissistic parent, or if you did live with them, obviously, when you're younger and you're looking back at that right now, they usually had very rigid standards. And it was all based on what they wanted to deal with, and what they would allow. And they rarely ever wavered from those rigid standards. Number 11, neglect. Now, some parents who are narcissists have a tendency of being the opposite of neglect. Like there's no way you can get away from their gaze. There's quite a bit of dependency and quite a bit of codependency. On the other side, though, there's some narcissistic parents who neglect their children. Because again, it's all about them. And you as a child become a burden to their lifestyle. And so they want to live that same lifestyle they lived before you, so there's a tendency of neglecting you and not actually helping you like raise you as a child. And that's something that oftentimes I hear in my office, whether it is complete codependency or dependency or the parent neglected them. One side or the other indicates a narcissistic parent. Another indication that one or both of your parents is a narcissist is that, well, they marginalize you. You're not good enough. It seems like you can't ever get to that level of being good enough. Always jumping through hoops, always trying to impress, and always falling short. And it's unfortunate because when we get to adulthood, being marginalized by our parents can weaken us as adults. And I'm going to talk about that in just a few seconds here in this video, because if we don't realize the situation with our parents, we might take this through our entire life. Last but not least, the narcissistic parents will live through their child, okay? Whether the child makes the football team or the oldest daughter becomes a cheerleader. It's not about that they're happy for you and they're happy about the experience you're having. They're going to take that to the next level and live vicariously, but in a narcissistic way, through you. It's not about you anymore, it's about them. Okay, so now that we talked about the signs that mom or dad was a narcissist, or maybe both, let's confirm it, okay? Because if you really are the child of a narcissist, there's going to be things right now in your adult life that you're dealing with that you may not have understood where it came from. Interesting, right? So I'm going to point those out right now, and they're going to directly reflect onto the signs that I just pointed out, and I think they're going to make a lot of sense, and they're going to connect a lot of dots for you. If you're the child of a narcissist, you're likely to struggle with some of these things, and let's begin talking about these things right now. Okay, codependency in relationships. Codependency in a relationship, codependency in unhealthy relationships, right? Okay, how many of you right now are in relationships with somebody who's unhealthy, whether it's somebody that's under the influence of drugs, alcohol, maybe you're dealing with a cluster B personality disorder, maybe you're dealing with the whole gamut. Maybe you're in an abusive relationship, emotionally, mentally, or even physically abused. Okay? And you're codependent and you can't leave that relationship. It seems almost impossible, even though you know it's unhealthy. And then you wonder, how did I get here? How did I seem to find all these different women that are unhealthy? Or how did I seem to find all these different men that are unhealthy? And how did I get stuck in this? I thought there was going to be more to my life than that. Well, when you find yourself in codependent relationships, especially in unhealthy relationships, right, it directly reflects back to your upbringing. Think about it. If you had a mom or dad or both parents who were narcissists, you literally were trying to fit in all the time. You were trying to figure out how to be loved, how to be cared for, how to be the best kid, how to impress, how to be successful, how to show them that you're a success, even though you've been marginalized for the better part of your life. But the biggest thing is what? You just wanted to be loved. And because your love with a narcissist was what? What was your love with a narcissist? Well, it was very conditional. Lots of conditions put on that love, right? What did you do to deserve it? Did you make the right grades? Did you go to the right school? Did you make the right friends? Did you clean up around the house or did you not? Okay. And so because of that, you want to be loved so bad, you'll put yourself in many unhealthy relationships to feel the love that you didn't have growing up. Another confirmation that you're the child of a narcissist is that you have a weak sense of self, a low self-esteem. Yeah. And it's funny how we don't realize often where that came from, okay? We feel like it's growing pains or it's a normal adult process that we have to go to. But think about the guilt trips that you dealt with as a child. Think about perhaps not being the golden child and being the child, well, that had to wait in line, or the child that never seemed to do things right. What about being marginalized or neglected? All these things directly relate to having a low self-esteem, because when you were growing up as a kid, you didn't understand they were narcissists, and you just felt like you just weren't good enough because they kept telling you weren't. If you would just do this, it would be better. If you could just do this or create that. And it seems like you kept jumping through those hoops, but it was never good enough. And in your adulthood, because we haven't dealt with the childhood past, dealing with the narcissist, we still have that low self-esteem, and we haven't dealt with it yet. Another indication that you're the child of a narcissist is that you really have no boundaries, and you have an inability to say no. It seems as though the idea of having personal boundaries doesn't exist in your vocabulary. You don't know how to create them. You don't want to create them. And why is that? Because you want everybody to like you. You want to be loved by people. You want to be surrounded by friends, no matter what cost. Okay? The thing is that when you were being raised by that narcissist, remember, the narcissist didn't respect any boundaries. There were no boundaries. So you grew up in a household with no boundaries. Okay? And you wanted to be loved, and so you didn't really realize this was unhealthy. And so as you went through life and you left the house and you moved on into your adulthood, you don't know how to create boundaries, because one of the reasons is you were never taught how to, but another reason is you're scared if you create boundaries, you might lose a friendship, right? You might not be loved by somebody. they might abandon you or walk out. And so the idea of saying no to somebody is almost like a cuss word to you because you don't want to take the chance of losing people in your life, even though oftentimes the people you would lose by creating boundaries would be those unhealthy relationships that you would do best by letting go of. Another indication is chronic guilt and shame. Yes, the shame, the blame, the guilt game. Yes, because you were guilted your whole life. You know, it's interesting how our past dictates our present, right? And when we are guilted and shamed about who we are, when we're made to feel bad about who we are at our core, it really does a number on us. And it's something that we have to work through. And it takes a good life coach or a great therapist to really get to the bottom of that and to go back and search and explain and see exactly what happened as a child. Rectify those things, forgive those things, and let them go. Because when we realize that the parent is a narcissist, we realize that in their head, they're not good enough, okay? They don't love themselves unconditionally. So how can they love you unconditionally? And a narcissist covers up the fact that they feel so insecure and they're not good enough. They use the narcissistic outer layer to show the world that they're the best, they're awesome. And think about it, it's because they feel a lot of shame and sadness within them that they've created this persona to, well, in some way, protect them. And so it's normal for a child of a narcissist to feel guilty and to feel shame, but it's about eventually letting that go and being free to live your true life. The next indication is self-loathing, not loving yourself, okay? Because you've been taught as a child that you weren't good enough. It's pretty self-explanatory. You don't find that love because your parents didn't have that love for themselves and they didn't have that unconditional love for you. And because there was a constant guilt and neglect and marginalization and telling you that you're not good enough, it directly relates to the self-loathing. The next indication is feeling empty and having trust issues. Being the child of a narcissist, it's difficult because there wasn't any unconditional love. All the love was very conditional based on what you did or did not do. And so it can leave you feeling very empty inside. It can leave you feeling as though there wasn't real love. It can leave you feeling as though you're running a marathon, but there's no way you can ever do well and you can't ever win a prize because of the upbringing and because of the environment you were in, as well as having trust issues. Because when you're living with a narcissist, there wasn't a lot of trust. They broke a lot of trust by breaking boundaries of any sort, by going through your things or your possessions, or making you feel bad, or saying things that really hurt you. And so the trust factor probably went by the wayside a long time ago. And because you've seen some things that weren't necessarily what parents should do, the opposite of what good parents do, it's hard to trust because if my parents did something like this, how can I trust a stranger to do me right and not hurt me or take advantage of me? Another confirmation that one or both of your parents is a narcissist is that you have a tendency of having anxiety and or depression. Anxiety to jump through hoops. Anxiety of doing what's needed or feeling bad about not excelling or succeeded. The anxiety of not being everything, right? And also it can cause depression as well because when you were growing up, not feeling good enough, not feeling as though you are good enough, being depressed at the fact that it seems that, they're unhappy or there's guilt involved. And so a lot of times when we're raised in a family with narcissists, we can feel that depression. We can feel the anxiety. We've been walking on eggshells when we were being raised as a child. And this can go through our entire life until we realize the impact that living with a family of narcissists had to do with us on our self-esteem, how we feel emotionally and mentally about ourselves, and how to understand how to self-love ourselves, because that's something that was never taught to us because we were raised in a family where love always had conditions placed upon it. If you didn't meet the criterion, you were not shown the love. Last but not least, another indication, you are a people pleaser. Oh my Lord. Yeah. One of the biggest indications that I've found is that when you were raised by narcissists, we have a tendency of people-pleasing all the time. Why is that? Because we want people to love us. We want to have friends and family around us. We want to do anything we can to have people that like us and care about us, okay? And when we were growing up, I think that we learned that, and we learned how to jump through the hoops. We realized that love was conditional. And so we don't really focus on the fact that love shouldn't be conditional. It should be unconditional. We don't focus on the fact that some of these relationships in our lives are really quite unhealthy. And we have a tendency of just wanting to have as many relationships and have as many people love us as possible. So we say yes to everything. We say no to nothing. And we become the doormat, walked all over and taken advantage of, because that's what we dealt with when we were a child growing up in an environment with one or two narcissists as our parents. Okay, I know that's a lot to take in all at one time. This might be a video you might want to watch a couple of times, and definitely I hope you share this video with some of your friends that may be dealing with some things in their life that sound very familiar in this video. You know, it's interesting. Our childhood is very important because it's the way we were raised. It was that beginning, that formation, that foundation. Now, we can always change that foundation. We don't have to be bonded or held to that. We might have to change our perspective on life, and a lot of times we must realize our personal value, okay? And it takes us to actually understand what our personal value is outside of what was dictated when we were children. What I began to realize when I got older is that there's a thing called unconditional love, right? And I realized that's something big. That means that I don't have to jump through these 5 hoops to get praise, which I thought was love, right? I realized that I could actually love myself and stop hating myself because I was a good person and I had a good heart and I was doing good things. It's interesting the impact that our childhood has on us and how we will take that stuff, that baggage, into our teens, our 20s, our adult life, our marriage, having those children. And until we get real with that childhood baggage, we can't let go of the negative aspects of it that hold us back and take us away from shining our true, brilliant light. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. And I would like to hear from you in the comments section below. Please let me know of some of the personal work that you've done to embrace yourself and to rekindle your flame and to find that unconditional love. And some of the things you've worked through as an adult to reclaim your freedom and to let go of walking on eggshells and to stop having to jump through hoops to prove how great you are and allow yourself to be. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it's helped you. And don't forget, even if your mom or dad or both parents were narcissists, you don't have to live your life this way. You can make changes. You don't have to hold on to old concepts and ideas that don't help you. You can change that perspective. You can embrace yourself, let that narcissistic past go, and create an awesome moment, but also an awesome future for you to bloom and shine. Don't forget to live your true life.